One company is on a mission to use regenerative medicine in order to help men who have been circumcised grow back their foreskin. Now, as a lot of you know, a lot of people, especially in the United States, are circumcised without their consent when they are newborn babies. Their parents will make that decision for them. In some parts of the country, it's so common to get circumcised that doctors don't even advise or consult with parents before they do it, which I think is absolutely ridiculous, but apparently that's what's happening. Now, let me give you guys some shocking numbers on how many babies get circumcised in the United States. Of the 660 million circumcised men worldwide, 115 million of them are American, making the United States the country with the most circumcised men, even outnumbering African and Middle Eastern countries. Now, a lot of people don't know the origins of circumcision. So of course it came from religion, but one of the reasons why it was a religious thing was because religious leaders would convince parents to circumcise their kids because it would prevent them from masturbating.
Yeah, that turned out to be not true. That did not work.
That's disastrous. All right, so as I mentioned, there is now a company that's trying to raise money so they can regenerate foreskin for those who want to do it. So the premise behind Foreskin is that if we are regenerating entire body parts from more complex body parts, why not apply this to the only body part that hundreds of millions of boys are missing, okay? The United States, by the way, is the only developed country where male infant circumcision is the norm rather than something done out of religious ceremony.
So let me give more really interesting numbers about that. The rate of circumcision in the U.S. hovers between 50 and 60%. Honestly, I'm surprised that it's that low. I would have thought that it was higher. Almost everybody, I just thought it was that the norm. I assumed that almost everybody did it. Although some of my friends now are not doing it for their kids. But in Europe, only 10% of boys are circumcised.
I was actually really surprised by that. So there's now a little bit of a shift in ideology regarding this topic, right? So there is a movement. They're known as intactivists. And so they're spreading more information about circumcision and how the costs outweigh the benefits, okay? So what are the benefits? There are a number of studies that have been published by U.S. Researchers indicate, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, by the way, that indicate that if you are circumcised, it will actually decrease the chances of you getting or spreading certain sexually transmitted diseases. However, European researchers are disputing that. They're saying that there's a lot of bias in these studies, and the reality is, I mean, when you really think about it, all of the different ways that you can harm a male permanently through circumcision outweigh these possible incremental benefits of spreading disease. It's not even that much of a difference for you to actually justify it.
Yeah, what I was really disappointed by, honestly, is the differing scientific views based on whether the scientists are circumcised or not circumcised.
I know, it's amazing.
Right?
The bias
It's
is
really,
incredible.
really sad that the Europeans, who are largely uncircumcised, are like, yeah, being uncircumcised is awesome, and I have scientific proof to that effect. And the Americans who are circumcised are like, no, being circumcised is awesome, and I have scientific proof to that effect. Okay, now, by the way, I don't want people to get carried away. This is not like climate change where 97% of the world's scientists completely agree. This is where something is really in dispute. But to Anna's point, you're right, and I began to change my opinion on circumcision based on this story.
Yes, yes. Okay, so first of all, I was ignorant on the fact that circumcision started because religious people didn't want boys to masturbate. That in and of itself makes me against it, okay? I also
Not for me. So I learned that at some point as well. And I thought, oh, that makes me wary of it, right? But it's irrelevant to me in that decision-making process because what's going to determine that decision is health consequences. Either way, I don't care what the origins of it were, right?
Yeah.
And so, and by the way, that's also their opinion, man. Like, I know they have history behind it, right? But people also say that it was because, like, for example, in Islam, they don't eat ham and pork products because in the old days, if you ate it, you die because it was really easy to get poisoned that way, right? So there's a religious reason, but the religion is backed up by health reasons.
Right.
So it could have been that originally some people thought, well, look, you're going to get sick, you're going to get more infections, especially in the old days, because of the foreskin.
Yes.
And then that might have led to the religious reasons for circumcision. So I don't think it's as clear-cut excuse the pun, which I did not intend until it
Yeah.
came out of my mouth, but I'm kind of proud of now. Okay, it's not as clear cut
Yeah.
as these people make it out. Oh, it's just because they didn't want him to masturbate.
Right, but also at the same time, maybe back in the day it was safer or cleaner to be circumcised. But today, with all the resources that we have at our disposal, all you have to do is wash up, dude. Like, you don't need to put yourself or your children through the risk of circumcision, knowing that you have the ability to prevent sexually transmitted diseases in other ways.
So that's why I finally swung in that direction, and I really think I'm there now, having read everything I could on it. That it's not worth the risk of even just that surgery. As little risk as it is, it's still a greater risk than the chance of you getting an infection or getting some marginal health benefit down the road.
Right. I think that it's more invasive than people make it seem, and I also hate the fact that there's no consent involved, right? I get it. Parents get to make decisions for their kids.
I don't agree with that.
No, I get it. Parents get to make decisions for their kids, right? But at the same time, you are dealing with a very vital and serious body part that is important to people, right? And you're making a decision about your kid's penis, right? And if
But
they
you made a million decisions about your kids, and by the way, that affects their psyche as well, which could be far more damaging. And okay, we make a decision at some point, hey, are we going to have a C-section or not? Well, if we don't and we keep pushing, his head might be oblong like this. Well, I just made a decision about his head. But I'm a parent. I got to make the decisions. I got to go, especially in the heat of that moment, you know.
Look,
So-
I was born vaginally and my head was oblong and then it was fine, right? Because you're malleable as a little baby. You're like a little freaking blob. But with this, it's a little different, right? It's different from a life or death situation. It's an unnecessary medical procedure, and you're putting your kid in risk because this is now the norm in the United States, and doctors push you in this direction, and we have biased scientific research saying that it might help prevent the spread of STDs.
No, but again, let's be fair. We don't know which way the bias goes. We don't know if the Americans are biased or the Europeans are biased or they're both biased, right? So, but I concede that the health benefit appears to be marginal.
Yes.
Right? And the thing that puts me over the top, or over the tip, sorry. Okay.
What is wrong with you today?
So is that I lean towards keeping things as they are.
Yes.
The natural state of things. I mean, God knew what he was doing when he gave us foreskin. I'm kidding. I know it's evolution, but evolution knew what it was doing a lot better than any sky god would have known, right? And there's a reason why it came out the way that it did, okay? And so us messing with it when there's only at best a marginal benefit is not enough.
I totally agree with you. Now, if that's not enough to swing you guys, this last bit of information that I read about on Motherboard, which is a subdivision of Vice, like totally convinced me that this is a bad idea. This is what they said. Circumcision removes about 15 square inches of skin containing about 20,000 nerves as an adult, makes the penis an external organ with the head constantly exposed, disables the frenulum, the lubricating function, and its gliding mobility, and even dulls the color of the penis, and that's if the procedure goes well. I just don't think that it's worth it. In this day and age, when we have ways of preventing STDs and things like that, diseases, it's just unnecessary.
Yeah, I hear you. But sometimes the people in the opposite camp also go to extremes. They say, oh, it ruins the sensation stuff. I got news for you. No, it doesn't. Okay. Now, it's impossible to know the sensation I would have otherwise, right? So I'm circumcised, right? The consequences are also not disastrous. Oh my God, you've ruined their sex lives forever. That's simply not true.
Yeah, you have to look at people who get circumcised as adults. And surprisingly, I know one person, and this is anecdotal evidence, so it doesn't mean anything. When I read this story, I actually asked him, I'm like, look, you got circumcised at 22. So.
Oh, that is very interesting.
So I asked him, I was like, did the sex change for you? Like, did the sensation change for you? And he said, no, it still feels amazing, right?
Yes.
I didn't notice any difference at all. But that's just one person. You don't know if that's true of everyone.
Yeah, and you can make an argument that the sensitive part being exposed at all times might lead to more sensation.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's a lot of arguments to be made back and forth, but we're now in the camp of better to leave it as it is because the benefits are not overwhelming as far as we can tell. By the way, I got circumcised when I was 6.
Jesus.
And so, no, my parents didn't ask for my consent because that was the culture in Turkey at the time that you wait till a certain point. And so part of you becoming a man is you get circumcised. And so I even did my own pain injection, which I don't recommend.
What do you mean you did your own pain injection?
Like the doctor's like, would you like to do the needle yourself?
I don't want to hear this.
I was
This is
like,
terrible.
no, I'm 6. Okay, but they thought it was, you know the whole thing?
Yeah, I remember you telling this
Yeah,
story.
they had kind of like a picnic and family and friends were there watching. I'm 6 years old.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I pressed down on the needle myself, and the pain at the time was not as severe. Afterwards, once the painkillers wore off, then it got severe.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not in favor of doing circumcisions once the kid can tell what's going on. I've never been in favor of that because of what I went through. I also don't think it's like wildly traumatizing. I don't think like, oh my God, in that moment, my psyche was crushed forever. No, I was fine. Okay?
Yeah.
But at the same time, if it's unnecessary, then why go through the risk?
Yeah.